we counting to ourselves?
He's not an accountant.
I got it. 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, we're live.
Okay, so here we are, Finance Committee meeting, March 17th, 5:02 p.m. We have two topics on the agenda for today. First topic is dealing with Mayor's Court software. And with me, I've got Mayor Brown, Chief Hines, and Robin from Amberley Village, and new clerk Vicki Hill is here with us as well.
Hey, hi, Vicki.
So, again, you've all gotten the quotes from this and this information from Eli. And that's Robin's here also because she's like the expert extraordinaire. And so if we have any questions, she's the one who can help answer those. Again, it's what I took away from Eli is we need to make this change. It's not like we really have a choice per se. And the one option on the table it appears to be is that we can pay it all up front, the $15,082 and $15,082 up front, or we can spread it over 18 months. And there's no financing charge. Robin talked to the folks there and was able to get us a deal. So there's no financing charge if we can spread it, if we want to spread it over 18 months.
Wait. Is that not correct?
Well, let's do some math.
Yeah. Okay. 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 Okay, so
between the 5,000, if we pay down and then the next payment, how much time would it be?
Until October, is that right? That's what it's listed.
Yeah, it says October 1st.
October 1st.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
because the one payment plan here showed 15,082 over all the way out until October of 2022.
I've got, yeah,
This is dated March 12th, 2001. And it says it's
Oh, it is.
that's all.
Hey, guys, I can't really hear what's being discussed there.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So we're trying to keep our distance here as well. So
I didn't look at this. So.
Did you see it, John?
I did not look at this when I believe I got a copy of it, so I didn't see. So if she has this out there, that yes, you could go ahead and waive that and do the total, then yes, I think that's what, because this is what we have.
And the cost of the thing is upfront spread over the 18 months until October 2022. So, if you spread over 18 months, I'd love to do that.
Would be the 10,082, and that equals the 15. That's what I'm going to, and she's got the fee plan. So then she's got it broken out in that 5,000 and the 3. Yep. I'm sorry, I think I got copied on this and I apologize because it's not my finances. I'm trying not to.
Sure. I understand. So, but it does appear like we can do it over 18 months and it's the same as we paid it all up front. 18 months, same as cash. So, you know?
Okay, may I ask a question?
Yes, fire away.
Okay, so I see that in the $15,082 is the 2022 Mayor's Court Annual Support Maintenance. So that will continue on an annual basis, ongoing while we're using the software?
The only thing that, yes, she will bring that out for you. There is an annual increase. Sometimes it's based on the economy, whatever it may increase, but she's very good at the October or November, maybe October, November of the previous year of sending an email to your clerk. And she will tell you for your budgeting consideration, this is what our annual maintenance fee is for next year, so it can be added into your budget before the year end. And that should be able to, once we get everything up and running, that should be able to come out of your computer fund.
Okay. Just wanted to,
Yeah, but the contract, it says that maintenance board also gives you upgrades and everything else that goes with it. So it goes beyond, from reading the contract, more than just maintenance. That gets you to get the upgrades.
So there's some of the upgrades the clerk has to do themselves, and that's certainly something that I will train Vicki on, but Amy's very good. When they send out an upgrade, for example, if the BMV changes the designations for what we have to send up for the points and whatnot, they are very detailed instructions. They don't do it and then push it out. They send it out to each clerk. The clerk can go in and has access to be able to change those and update them. It's a very simple process, but they're very responsive. They will make the changes. They're there for her 5 days a week to be able to go in and help her. They can actually connect in if you have that ability and help her solve any problem she has.
So Joe and Kelly, do you guys have any other questions?
I don't know. I just wanted to clarify that annual amount.
Right. That's the amount we should be budgeting for going forward.
Right.
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Number one, what fund does this come out of? If we spend this money, and did we budget it for it this year?
Well, so there's a computer fund actually that is supposed to be used for this kind of stuff. And so we're thinking that would be the appropriate place if there's enough money in there. So there's another topic that's going to be brought into the finance committee at the next council meeting about how much we could maybe increase that fee by to offset this then.
All right, so I'm looking at the current appropriation, and we appropriated about 9,000 out of that account in 2021.
Chief, you know, so that's the computer fund, or is that like the
That's
alcohol?
the mayor's court computer fund.
see, that's what I'm saying, that's where the numbers don't make sense to me. That's what-
Well, again, the assistant fiscal officer's report does show a balance, so. Okay, well, that's, Joe, I think that's something we're gonna have to resolve here, so I don't, ideally that this would go against the computer fund, and we're also gonna look at raising the fees to be able to offset the costs then too.
All right, so that's not my first question. Where does it come out of, and did we budget it for it, or do we have to change the appropriation? And why are we making the switch now? What's driving this, and was this anticipated, or was this something that, you know, what drives the decision to make the switch?
The current system that Mariemont is on is the RCIC Mayor's Court system. It was built by RCIC back around 1999. The people that are down at RCIC, while they're IT, they're based for RCIC, the Mayor's Court system was a very rudimentary, it's a very antiquated system. Most courts, myself included, realized that this court system software was not able to handle what a court does in the future and what it's doing today. It's got the basics. It's very cumbersome to go through. And with the changes, what would happen with RCIC was any changes that had to be made had to be done by the clerk with no explanations. As I stated before, the BMV would send down an updated list, and we were just left to ourselves to figure out how to do it. It's written in an Access database, and which again was fine back in the 90s, but not so much today. The RCIC has, through attrition, has lost quite a few people. The main person who was behind the backside of it, I would go out and do training on many municipalities on the front side, the actual court operations. The person who did the backside retired back in 2014. And the person that came in was basically a tag, you're it, and didn't have too much knowledge with it. Debbie, again, she's the second person in, has since retired. They have now, through attrition again, lost quite a few people and are running on very few people down there. And speaking with Peggy O'Neill, who is the manager of the RCIC, they only have Mariemont, Madeira, and Deer Park are the only agencies left on this. There used to be maybe 10 to 12 of us on there. And they are now putting a sunset on this computer system because Peggy O'Neill and Don Mormon are the ones left to manage it, and they have no court experience. They have no court knowledge. So they don't want the responsibility. So,
All right, here's the reason why I asked the question is we just went through a pretty rigorous budget review 4 months ago. And now suddenly I'm being told that, well, we got another thing that wasn't anticipated in the budget.
We didn't know this was coming. No, we didn't know this was coming. However, Margie worked on this old system, and like Robin said, there's only 3 agencies that are still on it, and Madeira's getting off of it. I don't know what Deer Park's going to do. They're going to have to off because RCIC is not going to support it anymore. And we did not anticipate this, but when Margie retired, our new clerk, Vicky, came from Mount Healthy. Well, and the system she knows is the Baldwin system. We were going to have to change anyway very, very soon, but to make the job more efficient and for us as an agency and to make Vicky's job more efficient, changing now is just the best thing to do. But yeah,
Okay, but again, I asked the question because
when we did the budget that Margie was going to retire, and she gave us the notice with very little notice that she was going to retire, and so here we are in the time.
But Chief, how old is this system? The current one we're running?
1999.
Okay, so if we got a system that's 20 years old, somebody should be probably putting it on the future agenda that we're going to have to replace something like this. Software systems don't last forever. So my only question is do we have anything else like this? I know we spent the past year upgrading a lot of computer equipment, a lot of computer systems. And is there anything else that's going to come out of the woodwork in the next 12 months that we need to worry about?
Well, there's going to be the Lexipol system, which we've already talked about, and we've already planned for, but that's coming out of the Traffic Enforcement Fund, which can only be used for traffic enforcement issues, and the Lexipol system does. We can use that for the Lexipol system, and so yes, that's something we've already talked about. In fact, I'm hoping that within the next week or so that Rob can have a meeting and we can get that up and running. But then after that, no, we're in good shape. Yeah, the Lexipol is something that we talked about, so that's not a surprise. Oh, for the Lexipol, no, that's the system that virtually every agency is using. And with our collaboration certification that we just got a provisional certification on, and we'll get the actual certification. That was one thing that they want is the Lexipol, and that's the certification through the Attorney General's office.
Joe, do you have anything else then?
One other question, since I've been getting my chops busted from some of the pool projected spending. Do we have a secondary bid here for this process?
Well, I think that's where I forwarded you the email from Eli that there really is no other provider available. I don't know. I'm looking around, but Eli told us that was the only other.
you can, There are other ones out there. However, I can tell you when Amberley Village went to it, we chose this one for the reason, one, it is the one that most Ohio agencies are on. It offers us the opportunity that another clerk can come in, God forbid something happens and you have to have somebody run your court. They can jump right on and get on it. Everything else, I got a couple bids, I can tell you, and other clerks that were on, I think CMI, which was bought out by another company. I don't know their name. Sharonville was looking at them, and they were in arguments because they wanted $10,000 alone just for the training. That wasn't even for the court software. So they were looking at Baldwin, they were looking at a couple others, but they still had not made a decision.
Any other questions for you guys?
I don't. Good.
Okay, so again, the other system, the current system we're on is being sunset. And from what Eli has said, this is the best option. Unfortunately, she could not make it to the meeting. Robin has got experience with this, with talking to other folks. And we do have the option, at least it looks like from this contract offer, to spread it out over 18 months. To your point, Joe, it's not in the budget. There is an opportunity for us to increase some of the fees for the ticketing and things like that that could help offset this, that would go into the computer fund. So that'll be something that'll get added to the to our agenda from Monday's council meeting. So I would move that we go ahead and recommend to council to go ahead and spend the money, but to also take the option of spreading it out over 18 months.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. Joe, what about you?
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Okay. Good. So if you guys, you don't have to hang around then for the rest of our meeting. Thank you, Robin, very much. Appreciate your help with this. Vicki, it's nice to meet you. Look forward to working with you going forward.
I'll meet you tomorrow, Becky.
Okay, good.
Okay. So that's the first topic. The second topic we have is the building department, and talking about, org structure and with fee structure. And Bill had said he had some stuff he was going to share, and so I'm going to just turn it over to him and let him talk the proposal. I know Kelly worked with him on it too. I want to give full credit. Kelly worked with him too. So
Yeah, Kelly and I basically have had conversations. We started the conversation with XPEX, I guess, although we had a very good conversation. We met with the county. They came out. We've got their fee schedule. We talked with them, find out what they would do, what they wouldn't do, which is equally important.
Right.
Kind of a thing. So that was a good meeting. We then met with a guy, Dennis.
Well, don't forget Hamilton County.
Well, no, I just said we met with the
Oh,
county.
sorry.
Yeah,
I
we met
know
with the
what-
county. Yeah.
Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis Stemper or Stemple or something like that.
Stempler, I think it's Stemler.
Okay.
Met with him, very interesting guy, and he represented another firm that was very similar to XPEX. And he had two proposals for us. We could either essentially go with the firm where, they would, act like an XPEX and you would hand your plans off to them. They would do plan review. They would do the inspections. They're the ones with the license. They're the ones that put the stamp onto the plans and the building permit. However, boy, it was like unbelievably expensive to go that option. Or we could have him essentially become the new building commissioner, where he would, literally sit in the office for, 20 hours a week or whatever would be required. And that was ultra expensive. So he pretty much said, thank you very much.
Have a
You
nice
look like
day.
a great guy and everything, but that was,
Have a nice day.
have a nice day. And that would be
Have a
really
nice
that. So we're sort of back to the XPEX option, which is, it is a good option in a number of ways. I mean, because they do break down their fees over between the plan review, doing inspections.
And just
Hold on.
general building officer function.
So,
What's happening?
XPEX breaks down their fees 3 ways, correct, Kelly?
Yes.
For plan review,
Mhm.
inspections, and essentially putting their license on the plans or the
Yes.
permit.
Yep.
And they have various hourly rates, varying hourly rates for each of those activities. And kind of one of the nicer aspects of this plan is, and I talked this when we were talking, I sort of stressed this, that when a set of plans would be submitted to them, given the degree of complexity of the plan, we would like back from them an estimate, an exact estimate of what their fees would be. And I'm talking the total fees, through plan review, inspection, putting the license on, so on and so forth. And knowing that number, then we would be able to pass those costs onto, that would be essentially become the price of the permit, plus a little additional for the zoning officer. And
Sorry, Bill, but which
no, go ahead.
well, I believe I mentioned this to Rob the other day, but the benefit of doing it that way is then we control the fees, and if we want to kind of cover a zoning expense near, we're able to do so.
And additionally, a couple of other things. We're really under no kind of a dollar contract with these people. Initially, if we were to go with them, they would want to have a time commitment arrangement whereby you would essentially agree to 6 months or something like that. There'd sort of be like a trial period, at the end of which then you would commit, sign maybe like another yearly contract with them, but it's a time commitment, not a money commitment, which I think is,
So is it annual?
well, he sort of I guess it would be annual, or it's probably negotiable,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because essentially he really stressed with us, and this is what I sort of liked over the county a teeny bit, was that if at any point in time we're not happy with these arrangements, we're out of it. I mean, we've made no real commitment to them. And additionally, because they are a private company, we're dealing with them in that regard. I feel we have better, control over, what they're doing, and better access to them over, how they're running the operation.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reasons residents become dissatisfied with it, we become dissatisfied with it, essentially we can be out of it.
Yeah. And I would like to follow up on Bill's comment about the access. The times that I've had to get a hold of them, it's been automatic, answer the phone, not a message, not a call you back. It's 24 hours later, it's 48 hours later. It's immediate. So my point is that the communication with these guys, from my experience so far, is strong, is good, and they're a great asset.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. It's great to have it. So how many people are in the office? I mean, they must have these, at these different rates, they must have different people, skill based.
Me too. I don't know.
Because one of the things, I told Bill this before, so one of the things, whatever we move to, I like to make sure there's continuity, because we tend to have, if we pick one person and all of a sudden that person retires and all of a sudden we're scrambling trying to find another one. So if we go this route, is finding a company that's an ongoing entity that we can continue to work with and not have to worry about one person saying, okay, I'm ready, I'm done. So that's, and I'm not doubting,
No. And that is a good point. And we got the impression, I don't know whether Kelly or we have the exact number of how many total employees they have, but I can assure you it's way more than a one-man operation.
Oh, absolutely. Again, I don't have an exact number. It would take me
We can find that out.
less than a day to get it, but they have a couple of plans reviewers, they have a couple of, at least 2 inspectors. Somebody's always accessible, whether it's this guy, Jerry Stoker, or, somebody in the office, they're always accessible. But I'd be happy to reach out to him and ask him the exact staffing levels.
Okay, yeah, because actually what I'm doing here is I want to write down sort of the follow-ups, because again, I'm not expecting us to make a recommendation out of today's meeting. Today, I think it's just for us to get together and talk about ideas and identify what additional data do we need and reconnect them before. Again, we made a commitment to get back to council at the first meeting in April. So
Right.
this is sort of like more of a working session, not a recommendation section. So I'm taking notes about that. I mean, so I wrote down so far, it'd be great to see a contract, what the contract looks like, so we can all review that.
I've already asked him for that. He's gonna get that to me by tomorrow.
Okay, yeah, how many people in the firm and sort of what's the right word for you have, succession plan, that's the word, so succession plan. So,
Rob, what they should have is some sort of presentation to describe their capabilities, their structure, all the rest of the stuff. I mean, what I'm hearing right now is a lot of verbal. They've got to have something that explains this stuff to us because, either we got to put this presentation together for full council, or they should have something that explains what their capabilities and how they're, and answer some of these questions regarding, do they have enough scalability to take on more business at this point?
I can reach out to him and ask him to do that.
Okay.
If we want to, if we want to have it be a separate. I mean, I don't think we can fit it into this Monday's meeting. We've got a pretty full docket for Monday's meeting anyhow.
Well, we're not ready to make the recommendation yet. So
Yeah.
Well, no, I know, but
this
I'm-
is collecting information.
Right.
So when we go to the council in April, that we've got at our fingertips information like this, and we're not just doing a lot of verbal stuff. We actually got hard, data that we can supply to them.
so yeah, because they must have marketing materials, to hand out.
And again, I look at their website and they've got some stuff out there, but it's not a lot. And so that's why I'd like to understand. They have to have something, that.
Because Joe, to your point, you actually have a kind of a good point there. The other guy, Dennis, that we met with, who is with a company called WSP.com USA, and he had a big brochure. And I mean, yeah, they've got, look at the number of guys and all that kind of stuff. But along with that, of course, they were twice the money practically that the other company.
I'm just talking about a simple PowerPoint
No, I
presentation.
understand.
A couple, they don't have to go out and print out a brochure, but they
Right.
should be able to explain to us. And they're in the best position to do that. We don't have to put it together. They should have something like that at their fingertips.
Hey, Bill, $100 an hour will get you a nice brochure.
Yeah, get a nice brochure. Doesn't Newtown work with XPEX?
That's what I understand.
Okay.
So I think Silverton does as well.
What I saw is they do Deer Park, they do North College Hill, they do Newtown, they do the Fairfield Plans examination, and they're building commissioner for St. Bernard also. So they got 4 or 5 villages that they're already doing this stuff for. And then they're the backup building commissioner for the city of Hamilton, is what it says on their website.
Mhm.
So continuing just to play this out, because I like the idea of an hourly thing, because again, one of the things that I would love to do with this, whatever our new arrangement becomes, is reduce the amount of deficit that we're running in the building department. So if we can get on the front end to say, hey, we get let me play this out further. So, because you guys, I understand this, right? There's still a zoning officer here, right? Yeah. So we just didn't say that. I just want to make sure we understand, if anyone else is watching this.
Well, and when I spoke with Jerry yesterday, I inquired about the zoning, and he said they can handle the zoning for us. We just need to make sure we give them our zoning code. I just wanted to ask him, and he said they do have a skill set for that. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Okay.
So they could do the zoning officer too, or that task in the process.
They can.
And they probably got more experience, dealing with the zoning law and a lot of different communities to understand that stuff a little bit better.
Okay. So, okay, well, that's something, it's an interesting option. We should explore that as well, it sounds like. Just, let's get the data and find out for that. So so there's 2 scenarios. One, they do the whole package. One, they do the sort of like the building side of things, and we retain our own zoning individual here. Which again is consistent with what Fairfax and Terrace Park are doing today too. They both have their own zoning officer. One of them calls them a zoning officer, the other one calls them a zoning administrator, but it's the same kind of thing.
Okay, so on that point, I'd like to see what the duties are of the zoning officer that are separate from the building office. And then at some point, maybe the next meeting, we can brainstorm about, what qualifications do we think the zoning officer needs? If we decide to separate the 2 tasks into 2 different people.
Yeah, one thought though, Joe, is that at least for the immediate future, we're really almost going to have the in-house zoning person, because there's this transition period. We have a lot of work in the pipeline right now. So the sort of handoff from Don, to see some of those projects through, or, Eileen, like it or not, is probably the best person to handle that, at least for the interim short-term period.
How much backlog do we have, or how much in the pipeline?
I don't have the exact number, but it's more than you think. I mean, I can get the exact count on the number of pending applications that are currently in the pipeline right now.
And then when you get that number, tell me how long it takes to clear each permit.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that's a follow-up as well, as like, what's the backlog? And time to get caught up.
We've got the CRA
What
to give consideration to as well.
do you mean?
Well, I mean, that goes through the building department.
Say more, just make sure I understand correctly.
So when somebody applies for the abatement, they apply to the building department.
Yep, okay, gotcha.
And everything flows through there, and anything that goes on to the Hamilton County Auditor goes through our building department. I mean,
Yep.
council votes on whether or not we're gonna do something, but as far as 90% of it goes through our building department. Just,
Yeah, the CRA abatement, yep.
Yep. Just want to make sure we're including everything.
Yeah, because one of the things, so that's one of the things, so, I forwarded you the stuff that Eileen had about our current fee schedule. And I think that will help in terms of to Joe's point, if we do split them apart, this helps to identify, well, what activities would stay in a zoning officer, because things like, I don't know, we have tree removal, satellite dish antenna, sewer connection, public sidewalks, heating and air conditioning. I don't know that we need to have rental inspection. Well, we don't charge for those. Oh, okay.
Should.
So, yeah.
Rental permits.
So that, I think that's where the current, if we split them apart, that's where we would, this can help us to determine where to draw the line.
Right.
How that work.
Hey, quick question. When was the last time we raised our building permits?
Oh, geez.
Well, it predates 2016, because that was when it got put into committee.
Yeah, but we don't know when before 2016 the last increase went through.
You know who would probably know would probably be Dennis Walter, because it was in his committee when it got put in. He was the chair of that committee. So
I can ask him.
It's been eons.
If you want to know, I can ask him if you want to know for sure.
I think I'd like to know that.
Yeah, I think it's good data to explain.
To see when last date what was. And then, because it looks like that some of these other communities, based upon the stuff you shared, Rob, seems to do it every year. I mean, they just, probably do an inflation number to raise the fees. And, and again, I don't know where we stand on our fees, because it seems like everybody has their own little way of trying to figure out the values.
Right.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
So, one of the things that I've been obviously talking about a lot in the last 6 to 12 months is making sure, doing this comparison about what we charge our residents and taxes and fees and all the rest of the stuff, and knowing whether we're at the same level as our neighbors or if we're higher or lower. I don't know that I want to go through a ton of work on this building fees deal, but I would probably just stay with Hamilton counties and just adopt most of theirs. I mean, it looks like they did a pretty comprehensive review. And, that's what a lot of people in Hamilton County are paying for their building fees. Now, we may add a couple things for some of the quirks we have, like tree permits and all the rest of stuff. But I don't know, this is going to take a ton of work to figure this out. I mean, just use Hamilton County, because that's kind of the standard.
Well, are you saying, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish what you're saying.
But and then add the stuff that we got quirks, whether, if we got some additional things that we go for dishes, the satellite dishes or the tree permits and stuff like that. But I don't know you want to take every line item and try to do this comparison to see if we're higher or lower. And I mean, just adopt Hamilton County at this point. And if we find out we're getting too much money, later, we can drop it. We could
Well,
take
I
a
think
percentage of Hamilton County.
Yeah, because I think that's a good, I mean, because we know Terrace Park, Fairfax, and Newtown are all using Hamilton County's building permit fees. Again,
Right.
since they have a separate zoning, because Newtown does also their own zoning review, and they charge a zoning fee for that too. So,
Right.
So but the thing I do
Now-
like, the one thing I think that's important to know is, again, Newtown uses XPACs, and they also use Hamilton County's fee schedule, and they're still running at a deficit of about $15,000 a year. Whereas that's the one thing I do like about the proposal is if we get an hourly rate, a quote from XPACs, hopefully that'll almost be a wash, because hopefully they're good at estimating their cost, and they could say,
It's almost like a pass-through, Joe. I mean,
Yeah.
that would get us very close to break even. Because
I'm good with either approach, but again, what I'm trying to say here is because there was a couple emails floating around this week about, how much trouble there was trying to figure out these rates. I think just cut to the chase and go to Hamilton County and use those. That's what our neighbors are paying.
yeah,
And unless we can adopt this variable rate process, and we think that's going to work, I'm okay with that also. And again, we're not going to know for sure that we're going to be able to cover all this cost. You kind of have to go through it, but we're going to cut down the costs that we're incurring right now. I mean,
Yes.
there's absolutely no doubt on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
substantially.
Yep.
And
I agree with
so,
Sandra.
and so at the end of the day, I kind of look at this from some point that, okay, there may be some excess cost to permits to be able to do this out of our building. And if that's number is $10,000 to $15,000, that's okay, because we at least know what that is. And it was, as we do this macro review about where do we stand on our property taxes, income taxes to the village, we'll know whether we got to put a little bit more into that to, cover this $15,000 or cover the pool. We should be able to explain whether our taxes and our fees are reasonable or not. And on the building side, if we're charging the same amount as Hamilton County, and they've got the convenience of having the item in our, or having the person in our building, it's probably okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's where if we separate the two and have a separate zoning officer, and we keep some of those quirky things like you said, then yeah, I would use Hamilton County, because, I thought I sent you guys a spreadsheet like this and sort of tried to compare, but it was weak on my part, because it's hard. It's apples and oranges,
It's really hard. It's really hard.
It's almost impossible. And
That's
so,
right.
so why spend our all time on this? Because we know at some point we're going to have to do this comparison on real estate taxes, earnings taxes, and I'd rather spend our time working on that than trying to figure out, where exactly are we on these building fees.
Well, but you also, just to make sure I understand, you also said the pass-through process you're good with as well, right?
I'm okay with that. I mean, if we can figure that out.
Joe, seriously, on the pass-through scheme or idea, I don't think, the pass-through rate is going to be very comparable to the county's rate.
Okay.
It's just that on certain projects, given the scale and the scope of the project, they involve more inspections, more plan review, kind of a thing. And if a guy is planning a big expensive addition, well, I'm sorry, but the permit's going to cost a little bit more. It's going to
it takes more time.
It's more, but what I'm saying is it's also going to cost him more at the county.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right, because there could be 2, 3, 4 different inspections that need to be made.
Right.
I'm just trying to say it's equitable. It's an equitable process.
I tell you, trying to look through our fee schedule, I don't know, I don't know what a project would actually cost. And I'm sure they're subject to a lot of judgment. And when somebody walks in and says, I want to do this, and they ask what the fee is, I'm sure, it's really hard to tell them what the number is.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's the only thought I had on the fees. I mean, just from the standpoint, I think we're making this much more complex than it has to be. And if we do the variable, that's fine. But, I would just adopt Hamilton County rates because we know those are, somewhat, I'm sure that Hamilton County went through some analysis about their cost of their departments and trying to make sure that, the fees are comparable to that. The problem that we have in Mariemont, we may not have the volume to still be able to cover the cost with those fees. There's some scalability that Hamilton County has with all the business they have.
Yep. So, I agree with what you're saying about, I like that idea of the pass-through. I think that the question remains like, are we going to have, is XPAC's going to do all the little stuff that's in here, like tree removal and things like that? satellite dish antennas. So can you guys, because that would be, if we separate it apart, that would be some of the stuff that would save, because it may not be economical.
Worth the cost, right? Because he said
Yeah.
it's about at a rate of $65 an hour, and he's going to roll it up to an hour. Maybe that little stuff, something we just keep in house.
So is that what the rate would be for the zoning review, Kelly?
Yes.
$65 an hour? Okay.
Yeah. So yes, that's,
Better for the residents, better for us. Yeah, okay. Give me a chance.
Okay, so we still want to talk through that potential about that zoning, whether we keep the
Yeah.
zoning in-house, out-of-house as well.
mhm.
What are the questions we have about that? So if it's $65 an hour, I guess the other question is, again, are we gonna really outsource what Bill's saying? Are we really gonna outsource all of this stuff? Or are we gonna retain some of it in-house?
I would
And
think we
rental
would-
rental inspections, we're rental inspections. We're charging $25 an hour, right? Or no, $25 flat fee right now for a
Yeah.
rental inspection. Are we gonna have X-Pex do a rental inspection for us? And charge
I don't think we can cover that cost. It'd be hard to raise it from $25 to, $75, $70.
A rental inspection is not as involved as you think it is. It's not like a home inspection, a whole house inspection.
Right.
It's essentially a walkthrough to see that there are no safety code violations,
Right.
that kind of a thing.
So in terms of,
Yeah,
follow-ups next-
but, again, what are we trying to accomplish with that? Is it a safety feature?
It's a safety item, Joe.
Okay, so, what are they looking for specifically?
Well, what they're really looking for are more like flagrant violations. Is the water heater in the furnace properly flued? Are they in proper working order? Does the apartment have heat? Does it have, hot water? Do they have leaky faucets? Do the windows and doors leak? Are they properly
Okay.
sealed?
I just remember years ago, we did this study about what it costs to send a letter out of our, company. And to try to send a letter is typically, when you talk about all the hands that touch it and preparing it and all the rest of stuff. And when we looked at it, it really became clear if there's an item that's, less than $25, it makes no sense to even send a letter for it. You pay more in paying people and, to prepare it and all the rest of stuff. So in this case, if this is that important, why are we only charging $25 for it?
Well, we should be charging more, probably.
Okay.
Who's paying it? The renter or the landlord?
The landlord pays it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
The
and
inspection
what I
takes-
understand that these guys try to move people in and out without, paying the $25 at
No.
times.
Yeah.
The inspection is to take place when an occupancy takes place.
Okay.
When one old tenant moves out and a new one is about to move in, prior to the new one moving in, that's when you're supposed to have the inspection.
Okay, and how do we enforce that? How do we know if somebody's moving out? And
Yeah,
You
that's
rely
all.
on the honor system.
well, but that's kind of the problem.
Yeah, no, it's a big
and
problem.
so if we're gonna, again, people come up with all these great ideas sometimes about, hey, let's go do this stuff, and this is an important thing. So what happens if somebody moves in and the inspection isn't done, and one of these things turn out to set the place on fire? Do we have some responsibility because we didn't get called? That's where you have to really think deep on some of this stuff that, it sounds like, oh yeah, we'll do this, it's a great idea. The reality is how do you make sure it's getting done? And what's the value of that exercise? And if there's a value, somebody should be paying for it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And
Yeah.
to stiffen it somewhat, obviously, better communication with the landlords needs to be done. And essentially, you need a stick in there as well. You tell
Well,
the landlord, if the
if-
landlord
if-
doesn't call for the inspection, then there should be a fine involved.
Exactly. So, they can either pay $50 or $75 up front, or it's $500 to $750 if they don't do it, because we think this is a critical component of safety in the village, and we really want it to happen. So I think at some point we have to think a little bit beyond just the idea about what the fee is and what are we really trying to accomplish with some of this stuff.
I agree.
And the tree permit too is something I've always heard that, the tree permit will get waived, pretty quickly with a phone call.
Well, and how many people even realize they have to have it?
Right.
And where's the owner? Is it on the tree company that should know? Is it the resident that should know? I mean, who's responsible for getting it?
So again, there's a lot of stuff we keep baking into the process, but we don't know what our success rate is about compliance with the law. And especially, I've heard people just tell me that they are not paying a tree permit.
Oh, yeah.
And so what do we do about that? And I hate to use this term, but if you're the poor sap that actually pays the fee, how'd you like that? I mean, but that's the reality that, that's the reality that we have to think through about what are we really trying to put in place? What are we trying to accomplish? And how do we know it's actually happening?
So I agree with Joe. So what maybe as a next step is, again, so another follow-up from this sheet. This is all the little stuff that's down here on this part. The big stuff is the building permit up here. The little stuff is down here. Maybe each one of us go through that and let's say, and let's say, if we kept the zoning internal, number one, which items would we keep? And then the second thing would be, which items would we maybe propose removing? Because it's just not going to happen.
It's not worth it. It's not worth the effort.
And then once so we can narrow it down, and then when we reconnect, we can say, okay, those things that we are going to keep, if we're going to keep the zoning officer, and we're going to, here, and we're going to keep this fee, is it the right fee, and should we bump it up or not? So we can do that all in the next meeting between now and then.
To cover the cost of the service. I mean, yeah. I mean, so. All right,
So,
I'm good with that.
So between now and then, I'll send you. I'll scan this and send this to you because it's the clean copy.
Okay.
That has all that stuff. And again, it's all the.
Hey, Rob, does somebody have that on a Word or Excel file?
I only got it as a hard copy. I don't know. I can check around.
See if they got it, because then we can actually just type our comments in.
Perfect. Okay. Bill said he'll get it.
Okay.
I'll get it to you, Joe.
Where did it start with Eileen?
Yeah. I'm sure she's got it on the computer.
Sure, I'm sure she does.
So Bill, so again, the follow-ups.
I'll follow.
So Bill's going to get the electronic of that, and then again, based on that, we're going to go through and say, if it stays in house.
Is it value added?
Well, no. Two questions. If we keep zoning here, which one of these items would be part of that work that would be done here?
So Rob, what I'm thinking about is if this is truly on Word or Excel or something like that, you can take the schedule and create a couple columns, to start with, about who would actually do the work. Is it, the zoning officer, or is it the building office, or, however structure we bring for that building office. So you just kind of check the box going down the thing about what we think is each going to do. After that, we try to figure out if there's some comments about each one of these things, then we kind of do it. And I think that'll give us a good start.
Okay. About
taking this list of activities that we're charging permits for, and then try to figure out who actually does the work.
So I'm sorry, I missed that. I think you said,
send me the schedule, and I'll put together a grid, and then we can, I'll share that back with everybody, and we can try to figure out how to, again, you take all these lists of items and then say, okay, who do we think is the most natural person to do it? Is it the zoning officer, if we create that? Is it the building office, or can the one person do both? You follow me?
well, I know to me it's either one or the other. So it's either XPEX or a zoning officer.
When you say
No,
building
because XPEC could do both, and maybe, I guess you're probably right, is that we're going to identify those items that the zoning officer might do.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say.
So the assumption is that the XPEC or the zoning officer could do everything if we figure out that's the case.
Of all this little stuff, again, all the building permit stuff that requires the plan reviews, inspections, and license, that's all going out. So that's again, this thing, that's at the top of the page when Bill sends it electronically, that's all going out. This we have to go through and say, okay, which stuff stays. in-house versus outside
Or-
the X-Specs.
Bill,
Or stays at all.
one other question. Do we have any statistics about the number of building permits, that we're doing every year now? I mean,
Yeah, the last number I got on that, I think it was around 230 building. Oh, well, of course, now that's interesting, Joe, because, you got to kind of break it down between actual building permits and then zoning permits.
okay.
And that there was a heavier number of zoning permits than building permits.
I mean, any statistics we can have about volume, but
Yeah.
what you just told me, it's one a day, one a business day.
Well, not quite, but roughly, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so follow-up is, can we get at least maybe 2 years of historical data of number of building permits, and number of zoning permits?
Yeah, and then I don't know if we can go deeper about when you say building permits to some of that tree permits and other stuff.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be good to know what our volumes are right now as we try to figure out, the new solution.
I'll get you the number. Like I said, that 230 number sticks in my head. I asked Don that question a while back, and I was looking over Bill Fiedler's monthlies of the inspections that he does. And it seemed like that was the approximate number. I'll get you the exact number.
Okay.
Okay, so I will, coming out of this meeting, I will write down, I'll send out an email with the follow-ups. You guys let me know if I missed anything, so we're all on the same page as to what the follow-ups are. And who's doing what, and then, and we'll add this as a thing too, to your history of number of building permits and number of zoning permits. What other data do we want to have before we reconnect again? Is there any other data out there that we think would help us make this decision?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think if we collect all the stuff we're talking about, we'll have plenty to be able to make the decision.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, the one problem we got on this one, Rob, a little bit is that we're not going to have a perfect situation to be able to match the expense with the revenues. I just don't see us ever getting to that point.
No, we can just get a lot closer.
Yeah, we just don't have the volume to be able to pull that off.
Right, the scale, I agree with you for that. But that's what I do like about the pass-through methodology is if XPACS is good at estimating their cost, it's just,
In and out.
revenue.
But again, we have a little bit of scalability if we do use XPEC from some standpoint. If it turns out we need some more hours, hopefully they got the scalability and we can sign them on for more hours in any given month if we get a volume of stuff.
Yeah.
And again, let's not forget, for the past couple of years, we've had a lot of condos being built that aren't going to happen anymore. And that had to be chewing up some time. So, I mean, I really don't see anything else on the horizon at this point, coming on new condos. But you never know. You never say never. If somebody else wants to come in and start doing some tear downs, it could occur.
Okay, so when do we want to reconnect then? Again, the hard deadline is we got to get something by April 9th. I think it would be great if we could reconnect in a couple of weeks, like on the 31st or something, March 31st or something like that.
Hold,
I'm
please.
good with that. I think that's good because that would give us another week if we need it.
Yes, exactly.
So I would do the 31st on this.
So that's another Wednesday.
That's 2 weeks from today.
Correct.
Yeah.
What time? Can we block that out? You guys got your calendars right here? We can do that now?
3 a.m.
No, sorry.
3 p.m.
I'm wide open.
Yeah. How about 3 p.m.?
That works. That works for me. Okay, so next reconnect Wednesday, March 31st, 3 p.m. I'll double check with ICRC to make sure that fits their schedule as well. I will send I will type up the follow-up list and send that out to each one of you guys. And then I'll put names next to each one of these things, like, what's the XPEX contract look like, and put, whatever. Bill, I put your name or Kelly's, or does it matter? Okay.
I got it.
I'll put both your names and you guys work it out.
I'll arm wrestle you for it, Bill. He likes me better. Bill, he likes me better.
Okay.
All right. Anything else then?
I cannot think of anything else. That seems like it'll be it. This was a good working session, and hopefully then next time we get together, we'll be really close to making the recommendation then.
Yay.
Very good.
Okay.
All right, time for green margaritas.
Yeah, look, I told you we'd get done in time. You were worried. You were like, you're worried I'd take too long.
I'm
So,
so proud of you, Mr. Bartlett.
yeah. All right, you guys have a good one.
All
Enjoy
right.
your-
Thanks.